Hi guys, and welcome to another episode of Down to Business. Today I'm joined by James MacDonald from Newy Tech People, and I'll let him explain a bit more about what that is, because it's probably not what you first think, but very, very interesting business and a great story. Somewhat open to challenges, so we've got the challenge here of a podcast, not that I need a challenge, a bit of a veteran himself, so we'll go in there and go a bit more about James's background to start with and see where we go. So James, welcome.
Thanks for having me.
Absolute pleasure. You know, I was just saying about Newy Tech People, and I think the first thing that comes to mind is probably, anyone, I guess, building technology or doing technology, but yours isn't so much, employing those people, it's finding those people. So why don't you take us about, a bit more about Newy Tech People, but then also how you've ended up here in a bit of your journey.
Yeah, mate. Newy Tech People is a recruitment company, so a recruitment company operating in technology niche. The three words that come about that the name of our business is Newy. We are a Newcastle-based organisation. We operate with tech only, and then people. We are a people-based business. Obviously, in technology, the people element of it is our business. We companies come to us; they're looking for technology people for their companies, and we help them find those people and then place them or put them together. That's what we get paid to do. So Newy Tech People, it's as simple as those three words. But that's the business, and it is born and bred in Newcastle. So my background was actually marketing. So I went to Newcastle University, did a marketing degree. I did a business degree, majored in marketing. And then I spent 9 years doing marketing down in Sydney. Because back when I was coming out of university, this is probably one of the positives about Newcastle, I think, is when I was coming out of university, marketing, and the same in tech back in there wasn't opportunities in Newcastle to actually stay locally here, like to get paid well and build a career in Newcastle. There wasn't those opportunities back then. I think that's probably one of the best things I've seen in Newcastle is actually the opportunities. Yeah, one of the best things I've actually seen in Newcastle is the opportunity for people to go to Newcastle University and actually find a job and build a career locally in Newcastle. Because when I was coming out of university, there just wasn't the opportunity here. You had to go to Sydney to actually try and find those entry-level roles and build a career. So, yeah, I did that, which a lot of people do. Spent a lot of time down there, 9 years down there, built a bit of a marketing career, and then my wife and I fell pregnant. My wife fell pregnant. I didn't fall pregnant. My wife fell pregnant. And, we bought a place back on the Central Coast to be closer to family, and then sort of fell into recruitment.
Because it's a funny one, isn't it? Move away, try and build something up, and Sydney life. Well, not just Sydney life, city life, I guess. Great when you are young. I had a bit of the same story. It took probably needing a life change because family was coming to move to Newcastle. But I got to agree with you from a and even when you say way back then, it's not all that long ago that I think that change has been, where Newcastle has become quite the affluent area and growing outside of coal, steel, etc., mining generally, to provide these opportunities. So, so you went back to Central Coast and, as you said, fell into recruitment.
Yeah, no one tends to. Well, I definitely didn't, and there's many recruiters I've spoken to. There's none of them that have set out to get in recruitment. I didn't even know what recruitment was back then. But I'd built a few websites on the side, sort of taught myself a little bit of web development, built a few websites on the side. A couple of them were making a little bit of money, and I got to know somebody at Facebook. I was spending a bit of money with Facebook on a couple of the websites that I built. They were actually making a couple of dollars.
So you're coding yourself?
Very, very loosely. I thought it was coding. I was pretty much doing a lot of WordPress development or just configuration of WordPress to build some sites that provided online training. People would sign up, pay for that, provide some online training. Got to know the head of small business at Facebook, and he was actually doing some consulting with Foresight's recruitment as well. So he was working at Facebook, consulting with those guys at Foresight's. They had an office on the Central Coast and up here in Newcastle. They were looking to launch a tech division. I knew a bit about tech. I knew how to have a conversation, and that's how I fell into recruitment.
I'll have a crack.
Yeah. Not having a commute anymore. The commute from the Central Coast to Sydney was a killer. Like we had our first son, and I think I went 1 week, Monday to Friday, where I left before he got up each morning, and I got home after he'd gone to bed. For 5 days in a row, didn't see him, and he was a month old. I just thought, this is not life. And I remember sitting in that train station every morning, and the glum faces, just people just not excited to be there commuting, that daily commute, daily grind. wasn't exciting for me. It wasn't a life, wasn't much of a quality of life. And there were so many people that are doing it. So
and still are.
Still are. I think that's where remote work over the last couple of years and hybrid work has really changed for the better. So I know we can dig into the remote work part if you'd like. I had some opinions on that, but I think that's been a real positive change over the last couple of years and how that's affected people's lives positively. So, yeah, it was an interesting journey, and then fell into recruitment and launched the technology division for the team over at Foresights, and spent 3 really good years there. Met some really good people, had a good experience, and learned the recruitment game.
Because it's a funny one, it's like I guess, well, it could be any industry, but particular ones that come to mind, around whether it be real estate or banking or broking for another matter, but there's low barriers to entry. Recruitment's a bit the same.
For sure.
And like any industry, you get some great operators, some not so great operators. What's been some of the, I guess, things you've seen and maybe learnt out of that process even before?
Yeah. No, 100%. I couldn't agree with you more. In recruitment's probably at the absolute pinnacle of, there's people that look at recruitment like used car salespeople. Recruitment in general doesn't have a great reputation, which has its pros and its cons. Breaking through that, once you break through, there's a low barrier to entry, but if you're good, you can easily set yourself apart. I think the biggest lesson is trying to play the long game. I've looked at everything from a long game perspective. If you look at building relationships on a long game perspective, if you look at leaving $1 on the table for now for that long relationship, there's people that I've met, not done work with for many, many of years and known them and still had that relationship. And then many years later, something will come of it. So that long game, I think, is the biggest differentiator. It's when I've made good business decisions, probably been long game in mind. When I've made poor business decisions, probably not looking with the long game. Yeah. Maybe, shiny objects, a little opportunity here, opportunity there, not, maybe a quicker dollar. And I don't think they tend to be the better decisions I've made in my business.
Well, and I guess it's also, you've just said around people that you might have seen for years. I mean, maintain that relationship, and that's a common theme that comes up in all of our chats with any style of business or anyone in business. Those relationships, you need to respect them. You need to, I guess, simple rule we get shown when we're little, that treat people the way you want to be treated.
Yeah, our relationships are everything in business. We're a people-based business. Technology, I'm sure we'll dig into technology as well. Technology will change things in business, but the core of our business in particular is people. We're a people-orientated business. We work with people. We work with companies, but at companies, we're working with people within those companies. Like, you're working with a brand, but you're working with the individuals within that, and actually understanding them is the core. It's the core of our business, but it's the core of everything. I believe the people element to it, the relationship element, is where you either have success or not.
No, that's a good point. Good point. So I guess, you've ended up in that recruitment space. From there, how'd you go from working for someone to deciding, well, you know what, now it's time for me to go into Newey Tech?
Yeah. 3 weeks before we were about to have our third child, I went out on my own.
Make for a good dinner table conversation.
Yeah, it was a risk. I had a little bit a safety net, I guess, to go out on my own. I was provided an opportunity to sort of go out on my own with a bit of a safety net, a guaranteed salary, through a company that was sort of invested in me at that time. So it was a perfect situation for me. Opportunity arose, came about. I wasn't looking for a new opportunity at the time, but I'd always wanted to do something for myself. I'd always built a couple of little side projects or businesses on the side myself. I think I'm quite entrepreneurial by nature. It's how I'm wired. I think I was always wired to work for myself. I always had some challenges working for other people. So 3 weeks before, my third child was born, went out on my own. It started under my own brand, just under JM Recruiting, under my own name, because I wanted to build around myself. I was like, it was myself, the relationships that I had, the service that I was going to provide. I was happy to back myself, back my name. They knew if they were going to work with me, they were going to work with me. So that's how I started. I went out on my own. It was a risk for sure, having 3 kids, about to have my third kid, and being on my own. But it's also, I think when you put yourself in a situation like that, you don't give yourself a chance to fail. And I just knew that if I was going to back myself, I wasn't going to give myself a chance. There was most of the nights I'd be coming home, working 9 to 5, coming home, having dinner with the kids, maybe watch a TV show or have a conversation with my wife. They'd all go to bed, and I'd work from 9 o'clock till 1 a.m., 2 a.m. And I'd do that 3-4 nights a week. And I just think it's what it takes to get something off the ground. It's also what it takes to get ahead. There's a lot of talk about, work-life balance and things like that. And I'm 100% all for that, especially right now in my life where I'm at. But to get ahead, to really get something off the ground or to really advance your career, I think hard work is, you just need to put in hours sometimes.
Yeah, well, there's a great saying, isn't it? That, hard work makes luck.
Yeah.
But I like that point you raised about work-life balance, because it is become part of the, I guess, business vernacular these days. And you're in recruitment, not telling you anything new, that a lot of people talk about it. But I think the part we miss is, well, what work-life balance is for you might be different to me and it'll be different to the next person. So we can't sort of, mark everyone with the same style or the same brush. We need to make sure that we understand what their work-life balance is. You should have people at different stages of their life that, could be real opportunity for the business because they want to do more or get ahead, So I think business owners need to probably look at that and actually say, well, hang on, what does that mean?
Yeah, and work and life, for me, it makes a difference when you're the business owner, but they're one and the same. Like, I enjoy what I do. Me doing some work outside of work hours, it's not cutting into my life. Yeah. It's part of my life.
Yeah, I agree with that.
For me, I enjoy it. And I think that's probably the biggest, and I've placed thousands of people now, at least over 1,000 people in jobs. Like, the people that I think really have success in their careers are the people that actually take some enjoyment out of their work. So I think that's the biggest problem is not the work-life balance, the hours you do at the work, but what you're actually doing and whether you're actually enjoying that. Because if you're enjoying doing it and you get satisfaction out of it, then you're not as worried about clocking on and clocking off. So if you can get that part right and actually aligning your motivators with who you are, what you want to actually get out of life, and a job or a career that actually allows you to do that, if you can get that matched up and that aligned, then the difference between what time you start at work, what time you finish at work, or whether you got to do some work on a weekend or a night doesn't actually matter, because what you're doing aligns with who you are as a person or your career goals, or that alignment. And if you get that part right, then the hours part doesn't matter as much.
Yeah, I guess it's a funny one. Some people go and chase the dollar, and as you're younger, it's probably something you look for. And by no means am I sitting here and saying we do it for the love and we do it for free, but you can chase that extra money. But if you're going into a toxic environment or something that's mundane or not challenging, etc., you said you don't enjoy it, it can be a hard cost.
Yeah, and most of us, especially in the technology space, I work with people in technology only at the moment, and those people tend to have opportunities because they've got skills in demand at the moment. So there really isn't much of an excuse for them to go to work and hate their job every day. Like, if you working in technology and you hate Sundays and love Fridays because you hate Sundays because you've got to get up and go to work the next day in an environment you hate or a job you hate, and you love Fridays because you're like, I cannot wait to get out here, and you're the person that's like Wednesday hump day, you really should be having a look at your job and why you're there, because you've got a skill set that's in demand, and you should probably have a look around to do something else, because life's too short. Life's too short to do something you hate.
And look, it's a great point. And I think also from if you flip that, for many of the viewers or listeners be business owners, what are you providing and how you present your best foot forward to attract that talent and make sure they are fulfilled.
Yeah, and I think that's the biggest thing. It's definitely with a younger generation as well. I sound a little bit old, but definitely that money isn't the key driver in a lot of instances now. Like, those other motivators, like what is your culture like? What are the perks? What are the flexibility offerings that you are actually giving your staff? Like, what are all of those things? That they're the key motivators for a lot of decision making now in employment, not just the dollar. So, and that's changed a lot, because I think back in the days it was all about the money you could earn. It's like, hey, I'll move for an extra $1, but conditions, perks, industry, other motivators, and you get that part right and aligned to, what people are looking for, I think you set yourself up for more success.
And I think for many people, it's also actually communicating that. All too often we see business owners that, here's our job, here's a package that goes with it. They actually do provide quite a lot of perks and the flexibility and interesting work and that sort of stuff, but they do not promote it well.
Oh, EVP is massive, and it used to be, employee value proposition. What is it? It's just a word, or it's a HRE type thing, right? But it's actually the key in actually attracting the best talent. And if you're a business owner, you're only as good as the talent you've got, right? I've learned that more and more over the years as well. Like that, your life either becomes significantly easier or significantly harder depending on the people you got around yourself. So how do you communicate that? Like how do you communicate what you actually offer over and above a salary? Because you compete on salary and salary alone, you're in trouble.
So you mentioned you went out into, it was JM recruitment.
Yeah.
So and you wanted to back yourself, but I'm interested in that because I look at it from a point of view of a business sense and trying to make it, make yourself dispensable, if you like.
Yep.
So how did you find that out, and then did you want to take it away, and hence the name change or niching and that sort of stuff?
Yeah. So always niche. I just think there's a lot of power in a niche, right? So we niched on industry. So we just operate in tech and tech only, and niched again from a location perspective, and we just put both those in the name. So Newey Tech People. So whilst I launched JM Recruiting, I launched a podcast under the Newey Tech People brand. I guess that was my marketing background coming out. I was always brand first, marketing first. So I launched a podcast where most other people were recruitment was all about knocking on the doors, having the old school business development philosophy, I guess. I went about it differently. I went about brand and marketing first. So I launched a podcast. Podcast was interviewing local technology people in Newcastle. It was probably one of my smartest business decisions in retrospect. The podcast, I was interviewing people in Newcastle, so it was an easy introduction to have a conversation with somebody. So I'm ringing them up, not asking them for a job to work on, but for a conversation to share the story of what they're doing, their career, but also what's happening at their business. So really good opportunity for them to share their story. Most people won't turn that down. Good opportunity to share their business, like what's happening in their team, might help them with their team in recruiting. So it works out from those angles as well. Plus, if you're a company and you're looking to hire people in technology, the person that has a podcast interviewing local people in technology is probably reasonably well connected, right? So the podcast, in hindsight, was probably one of my better decisions.
Yep.
I'd been out on my own for a couple of years, and then my biggest competitor at that time, her and I got along well. We'd seen each other at multiple events. She'd built a really strong reputation in the local industry. She'd been around for a long time. And one of the beauties of recruitment is you get found out pretty quick. If you're good, word will get around. And if you're shit, word will get around.
Well, you'd argue that's probably in business generally, yeah.
Yeah, and it's great. I think Newcastle even better for that, right? Word gets around a lot quicker, I think. If you're good or not, word will get around even quicker in Newcastle. I think in Sydney, I've seen people, you can fall out of a job here or there, and you can probably jump a couple of times before you run into the same sort of people. You might get found out a little bit earlier, but in Newcastle, you'll get found out pretty quickly. Word will get around pretty quickly if you're good or not. And she'd been around for a long time, which is as good a testament to her reputation and how she operated. So she was at a point in her life as well where she was looking for a new opportunity. So we had a couple of conversations, and then she came and joined me, and then we teamed up forces. So I had a team of 3 at that stage, so that made a team of 4. Brought her on as a business partner, and we went and branded it under the Newey Tech People. So I'd already had an established brand with a podcast, and then just moved it all under the Newey Tech People brand.
Yeah, sure. So I guess then you talk about niching. I love that. And I mean, it's play to your strengths, right? Like if you can see an opportunity.
Yeah.
But obviously you came from general recruitment, and your business partner now, previous competitor, obviously came from general recruitment as well.
She'd done more general, but she'd been tech for a long time, and I've only ever recruited tech.
Right. So I guess then, if you bring in that general part, and as you said, you do a good job, you probably get presented a lot of opportunities that are not tech.
Yep.
So how do you go about sticking with it, and what have you done to, I guess, further collaborate outside of Newey Tech so that you can still service those, maybe not directly, but maybe in return get favours back the other way?
Yeah, well, I think it's just staying in your lane and owning what you do and what you're good at. I think you build a reputation for being good at what you do, and you try to be everything to everyone, and you quickly bastardize your service and you become nothing. So we just stay in our lane. We do tech and tech only. So if a company comes to us and looks for something outside of tech, there's different other recruiters I know locally that I'll point them in a particular direction depending on what they're looking for. Some people are great at accounting, some people might be better at blue collar, etc. And I'll just pass them off in a different direction. I'd rather do that than me to try to do something that I'm not great at. We'll just stay in our lane. And I think if we do that, and we do that really well, better than anyone else, we'll continue to build our reputation in that space. And there's plenty of companies that work with us in technology and other recruiters for everything else. They'll work with one other company for everything else and us for tech.
Yeah, I think some industries do that better than others.
Yeah.
Like I continually beat this drum when it comes to accounting and advisory and that sort of stuff. You've got specialties, you've got size, and scale in some businesses. They're not really competitors, but people go, oh, accountant, or lawyer, or engineer, go, we're competitors. Okay, well, especially because of probably something we'll get to with AI and technology advancements and that sort of stuff. People, I believe, need to have more eyes on collaboration and working on how they can have allies as opposed to competitors to best serve their clientele and keep themselves relevant.
That comes back to the relationships part you mentioned earlier today. Like the collaboration part's just relationships, right? Like really strong relationships, people you can rely on, people you can genuinely say, hey, I'm confident, and if I point somebody in your direction, that you'll look after them. And then vice versa, because it comes around. Like those relationships, that collaboration piece, again, long game. If you play that long game, you're building genuine relationships. It might not pay off today. It might not be $1 in your back pocket tomorrow. It might never pay off, but there'll be times that some of those come back and they're the better decision for you, and you'll get a payoff for it in the future.
So it's a good point. Let's talk collaboration. I mean, you've obviously got your one we were speaking about with stay in your lane and using others for different services. What other areas in your business has collaboration been, quite important and successful, and the opportunities that come off that?
Yeah, I think there's collaboration within your team. I think there's collaboration in, again, knowing what you know, and then bringing or collaborating with other people that know their space. I don't do my own accounting. I work with a partner that we trust in that, and you're collaborating in that space. If we're looking to do a specific video piece, we need really strong specialties in that we don't have in-house. We'll collaborate with a local partner. And we tend to try to operate Newcastle. Newcastle will support other local businesses. That's the way we try to operate. We're a local business. We try to support and work with other local providers who are specialists in what they do. So I just think again, it's like knowing what you're good at, and you're only as good as the team around you or the people that you can put around you. So I think the collaboration piece just goes for everything. Go for an individual piece of work, and come with the team that you surround yourself with. It can come with the partners that you surround yourself with. You don't get far in business just doing it by yourself and by yourself only.
No, good point. On that point, and it probably is a bit around collaboration, but you brought in a business partner.
Yep.
Okay. So I don't know. I've got a bit of a saying that there's no such thing as a merger. There's always it's a bit of a takeover. But reality is you've got people that have been successful in their own right coming together. So what were some of the lessons, I guess, out of that, or some of the things you had to navigate?
Yeah, it's consistent learning, right? I think we've been working together for just over 3 years now, and we're consistently learning and growing, and our roles have changed and evolved quite a few times. So it's consistent learning. Like I think I was told beforehand, it's like having another marriage. And they're like, hey, you better know who you're getting to bed with, right? And it's just a consistent learning. It's you do a hell of a lot together. You go through a hell of a lot of stresses together. Like you do really put yourself under some stresses in business, right? And you better know that the person on the other side's actually got your back as well. And I think that's probably been the best part of my business relationship, is just been knowing that the other person's got your back. And you'll go through some good times together, you'll go through tougher times together, and it puts you under stress, right? Like any relationship. But knowing that genuinely at the end of the day, the other person's got your back has been probably the best thing for my business relationship, I think.
Well, I guess it also, a sole trader environment or whether it be a company, but the only director, it can be very lonely space. So the upside of having the right partner, being able to bounce things off, being able to vent, being able to brainstorm, it's pretty powerful.
Oh, massively. And it's a collaboration piece again, right? It's just being able to have another point of view as well. As you said, it's bouncing people, somebody to celebrate the wins with as well. Business can be very lonely, right? Even when you got a business partner, like you go through some challenges, right? You can go through a lot of challenges. And having somebody there to do it with definitely makes it easier.
Well, I think that's another good point. Your closer relationship generally will be your spouse, but they're not in the business necessarily. So sometimes that conversation isn't as effective as someone that understands what you're going through.
Yeah, for sure. And separating business and home life is a challenge sometimes. And whether you want to take your stresses from one to the other, or put a bit of a dotted line in between and leave work here and have your conversation there, because there's a lot, the wins and the losses, the challenges, the stresses. It can be a challenge, taking that work life there and then having that same conversation with your spouse as well.
Yeah, no, I like it. And I guess off the back of that, one of the key parts, we said collaboration. We said rely on your team, but talk about communication. Because that can be easier said than done, especially when we're doing things on the fly, we're time poor, etc. What are some of the key parts you apply to communication within your team, within your network, within your partnership?
Yeah, I think the communication piece, and we touched on it just before with remote work as well. Like I think that's a ever evolving space as well. Like we've got our team, for instance, now we have people in Wollongong, Sydney, Newcastle. Even in Newcastle, we're in the office only a couple of days a week. So very rarely we're all sharing that space all together. So that communication piece becomes even more important. I think back in the days where everyone was in the office together, maybe communication is a bit easier as well. You can bring everyone together. You can see some people face to face. Things don't get lost in translation when you're having a face-to-face conversation versus, maybe something that's done digitally or written in an email can, be taken out of context. So.
I heard a funny thing. I read a funny thing recently. It said one of the most common saying since COVID is "you're on mute."
Yeah, and it's exactly right. And and there's different challenges with people being on video all the time, and whether people are uncomfortable like that and stuff. But yeah, communication's massive. I think trying to be on the same page with everyone from a business perspective is important. The communication piece is big, but it's a challenge as well, right? Like I think that's a big part of it's a challenge, whether it be in a relationship, whether it be a business relationship, romantic relationship, any relationships, that communication piece is hard, and a lot of the times you're going to have tough conversations, and that's probably part of my growth that I've been learning and getting better at over time, like having those tougher conversations. Not easy. I've definitely had a tendency to avoid some of them early in my career because they are tough.
And how have you helped we get involved in a lot of coaching, that sort of stuff. Is that something you've taken up to evolve that skill set?
Yeah, I've been working with a coach on that being one of the topics I've worked on over the years as well. And I think coaching, like you mentioned there, like I think coaching is super important, like part of career growth, and it doesn't matter whether you're a business owner or you're a junior, straight out of university or no university. That constant progression and looking to consistently evolve and better yourself. That's why you're going to have some success, and none of us know it all. I think we're all learning. I'm learning new things all the time. I was a really good recruiter. Like I think I was a great recruiter, which led to me having some success from that perspective. I'm a growing business owner or leader. Like I think I do some things really well. I think other things I'm continuing to grow and trying to evolve. Like I'm relatively new to this. I'm 3 years into, running a business as a part of a partnership, 5 years into running my own business. Like there's things I'm learning on the fly. Leading a team, it's completely different to leading a one-person team. It's very different to a 14-person team. How do you communicate? Like all those bits are just evolving. They're new skills.
Yeah, no, that's great. I think the key thing there is what I say about call it coaching, call it mentoring, call it advisory relationships, etc. When it comes to buying something or a sport or whatever it may be, we're happy to go and invest. When it comes to support services, that sort of thing, sometimes we're like, no. But reality is the best teams, the best operators generally have proficient people guiding them or supporting them or whatever it may be.
I completely agree. As you said, in sport, the best sports people in the world have, different coaches, and they'll have multiple coaches for different parts of their sport, whether it be a mindset coach plus a athletic coach plus a dietitian. So they'll work with multiple people, and I think business sometimes it's overlooked. And I don't think you can have a shortage of coaches or mentors. Sometimes you have I've got different people I lean on for different things because they got areas of expertise or specialization in a particular area, and I'll lean on somebody for ask a question. So I think who you surround yourself with is massive. Like having access to people, whether it be an official coach or mentorship, is massive. I think can be a big differentiator in making the right decisions.
Oh, and it's a great point around who you surround yourself with the networks, because in my experience, if you don't ask, you don't get. And when you do ask, most people are happy to help. It's got to work in with timing and all the rest of it, but most are happy to help.
Yeah, especially if you bring the right attitude to the table. Like I completely agree.
So we started to touch on a bit of, I guess, comfort zone stuff there around, having the hard conversation, stretching yourself in business, etc. And you may have answered it from a work point of view, but I'm interested from work. And also you recently took on something close to my heart. You had a bout, your first and maybe it's your last bout in boxing.
Yeah.
Talk to me about stretching your comfort zone around, the why and how you went about it.
Yeah, I think in life you can very easily, and especially the last couple of years with COVID, I think it's very easy for people to be like, hey, we've been through a stressful time, I'm just going to sit and cruise. And you can get stuck. You can get stuck in a rut doing that. I think I see it with people all the time that we work with who, from a career perspective, are stuck and they've not had that progression. And then 5 years has gone past, and it goes past really quick. And then they're like, I've been left behind. And it happens quite frequently unless you're actually conscious of it and you're consciously looking to try to stretch yourself or challenge yourself or what's next. And it doesn't have to be work related, but I think some form of challenge to consistently try to evolve or get better is super interesting. From a work perspective, like I think building a business, you consistently challenged. I'm consistently challenged. I'm consistently trying to grow and change and evolve and learn because I need to. I think market conditions or just running a business in general forces you to do that. So I enjoy that as well. I think I get bored if I feel stagnant. I get bored and I'm what's next? I get frustrated. So I think I'm always looking for what's next or how do I continue to get better or change and evolve. And then from the boxing part came about from I got 3 kids now and life very easily becomes about work, kids sport, doing something with the family and work and more kids and family, and then nothing for yourself outside of that. And another year goes by, a couple of kilos get heavier, a couple more kilos are heavier again. I thought I really needed something to just challenge myself. Like from work, I'm challenged intellectually, but I haven't been challenged like physically to take myself out of that comfort zone for quite a while. So I thought, what better way than the fear of getting punched in the face? So it was a great experience. I couldn't talk up the experience highly enough. It was 3 months of training, learning a new skill. Learning a new skill was super interesting. I loved learning, and learning a new skill of boxing was great. The fear of getting punched in the face forced me to make some really hard decisions around both food decisions, training decisions, sacrifices to make more time to train, what I was going to sacrifice from that, and then alcohol as well. I think all those things, I made better decisions for all those things leading up to the fight, and it was a really good night.
And you got the chocolates?
Got the win as well. And it was a good experience. I think Corporate Fighter was, corporatefighter.com.au is the website, and I'd encourage everyone to give it a crack. Like, it was really good, and they're safety first. Like, you can't get too hurt. You get big gloves on, headgear, mouth guards, so you can't get too hurt. So it was a really good challenge, and it's something I consider doing again as well. Like, it was that good an experience.
No, that's great. It's for anyone that hasn't got in the ring, it is probably the most daunting thing you'll probably do if you're game enough. But it's also one of the most rewarding things. So
yeah, definitely. And it's one of those things that's it's you against an opposition, but it's you against you. Like you have to put yourself in there. You're challenging yourself. Like, a lot of that training is you against you. Are you going to get out of bed in the cold to go for a run? Are you going to get to that extra training session? Are you going to skip that meal or that beer with somebody because you want to challenge yourself to get yourself better as well? So, and I do tend to find people that do have career success tend to have some successes outside of work as well. Like that, It's the mindset of people that do challenge themselves, and it doesn't have to be physically, but just that consistent growth, evolution, consistently challenging yourself. I think the people that I see succeed in their careers tend to do that outside of work as well.
Well, and the other thing is it's such a small percentage that have that drive. So, it doesn't take much effort to get ahead.
No, you can easily separate yourself from the pack.
No, that's a great point. So, we better get to technology. So, you're around people in the tech space all the time. Technology is such a key part of business and especially modern business. It's becoming cheaper and cheaper, and it's fast moving. You know? First of all, with technology specific, in your business yourself, and given your niche, how do you use it, and how important is it in your business?
Yeah, technology is important in our business, for sure. I think we're trying to automate as much as we can. At the core of it, though, we are a people business, and recruitment, like a lot of industries, I imagine it's the same in the finance game as well. I think more and more technology will automate parts of the process, which is great. It'll take out some low level jobs and to take out some parts of the mundane, repetitive, low level tasks. But I think what it'll really do is create opportunity even more so for people who are specialists and really know their things, really know their actual industry, to actually provide value using the data or using the information that's been automated beforehand. So I think like everything's becoming more and more data driven. We're automating as much of the mundane, repetitive, boring tasks we can. But I think what it then allows us to do is just provide a better service and use the actual people-to-people part of the business. That's the core of what we do, and allows us to differentiate based on that. So if we can do less of the highly repetitive, low-level tasks, and we can spend more of our time actually having genuine conversations with another human being about what their skills are, what their motivators are, and understanding from a company's perspective who's going to really succeed in a role and what they're really looking to try to do, and then matching that part up, I think will be a better business. It's definitely a more enjoyable business. It's a more enjoyable task. I imagine it's going to be the same in the finance space here.
Yeah, I think it's the same in most businesses that have a lot of repetition, have a lot of manual handling for that matter. But for me, I think you've just hit the nail on the head. There's a lot of fear mongering out there around AI and chat GPT and all these sort of things. At the end of the day, you can't replace that relationship piece.
No.
You can't replace that people to people, and it's actually, as you said, it's maximising that part of your business by the use of technology.
And the people that have succeeded are the people that use those tools. Like, those tools should be an advantage to us. We should use them as an advantage, not as something that's going to take our job, but that can make our job easier. And it just will force people to level up as well. Like the people's jobs at AI or just AI in general, or technology in general, automation has been happening for yonks. And the jobs that go tend to be the lower level, more mundane tasks. And if people will have to skill up, learn to use those technologies, and then you can provide a better level of service or a quicker level of service.
And how, for a business owner or from your point of view, even what you see in the recruitment space, how fast is this space moving, like with new tech? Like that you'd be recruiting for jobs that may have not even been there a couple of years ago.
Yeah, and the people that are genuinely at the forefront of technology are such a small percentage. There's still a lot of companies that are doing, big CRM. CRMs have been around for, again, tens of years, right? And they're doing a big change to their CRM system, or they're doing a big, data change where they're moving, from on-prem to cloud. And this is, again, technologies have been around for more than 10 years. And they're still working that. So there's still the absolute vast majority or bulk of the work is working with the bread and butter technologies that's been around for quite some time. The amount of companies that are genuinely playing with genuine at the edge AI or machine learning, very small. But I think more of it will come. But the people that are playing right at the edge is a very, very small percentage.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. And I guess with that, for me, with that technology piece and people filling into different roles, does that become an area where you, for your business, you look and go, well, and I know you said your niche specifically, but does other services to tech people become part of your future, like training?
It's been there's been a couple of tangents that I've looked at. Building software ourselves, or having internal software development capability that we could go and build software for a team. So if a company comes to us and says, hey, I want to hire 3 software developers, we could have the conversation, say, hey, what are you looking to build? We've actually got a team that could build that for you. So maybe you hire us to build that instead of you actually, hiring the people to do that. That could be a tangent one day in the future. Training people as another one that we've looked at in the future, or the job board, playing like an actual job board and playing for that top of the funnel as well. There are a couple of tangents. We've had a look at a couple of things in the past. I think where I've made poor business decisions sometimes in the past is try to do too many things at once and got away from the core of actually what we do. We launched a secondary brand in remote tech people probably 18 months ago, but we had a small team. We had a team of, I think we topped out at 14. We've got a team of 10 at the moment, but we topped out at 14. We're trying to run 2 different brands, trying to launch a new brand outside of Newcastle, across Australia. So trying to launch a national brand while also operating a localized brand, trying to do too many things at once. And we really didn't nail it. We didn't nail it well at all. And now just made the call to bring that in as a sub-brand for the Newey Tech people, launch the Newey Tech people, stay, do what we do that really well. So I think where I've got away from the core of what we've done in the past, is probably to try to stretch myself too thin or get away from the core of what we do. Because what we do has been a really strong business. It's a service-based business, probably not highly scalable as like a lot of technology businesses or startups, but it's a good, solid business. And there's a way to scale that. But we probably just tried to do too many things at one time.
So just because the opportunity's there doesn't mean you take it up.
I learned that lesson the hard way. Like, that avoidance of shiny things, the ability to say no, that's a learned skill. Because I think the more success you tend to have in business, the more opportunities you also get, and the more times you got to say no. So I know when I was very small, those opportunities don't present themselves as frequently, but the more you grow, the more people that you get to know, the more little opportunities come left, right, and center, and you're like, oh, that sounds exciting, and then you can very easily get away from the core of what you do.
No, it's a very good point. I think that's, but also where that the business partner or the mentors or whatever can keep me on track. So that's a great point.
Yeah, that ability to learn, ability to say no. Sorry.
So we've covered a bit of this already, but I mean, you've gone, as we said, from an employee and had a bit of success to actually operating your own business and to growing that. What habits or behaviours in operating business from the business I guess leader's hat? What do you operate by?
It's something that consistently evolves, I think, as well. Like I think I'm just evolving as a leader. I think I've used multiple different tools. I think the coaching part that you mentioned before, I think that's been big. Just to consistently try to grow and learn and build as a leader. I think that's been good. I think from a getting life right holistically, it's probably been like this last 3 months training for the boxing thing has been really good. I think I'm a better leader at work. I think I'm a better husband at home. I think I'm better, definitely healthier. I think that holistic approach, I think I've always struggled with, if I look at life from a 3 buckets perspective, family, health, and work, I think I only ever do 2 or 3 well of those 3 well. I think I've always struggled to do 3 well. Like if I'm all in on work and all in on work, and then when I come home and spend the rest of my time with my family, my health tends to, be by the side because I won't be sleeping as much. I'll be on the road for work. I'll be eating shit, or I'll be at more client lunches, more drinks, health goes to the side. All in on health, tend maybe not spending as much time with my family at home. So I've struggled to do 3 of those well, but I feel like the times where I've got the best balance between those 3 is when I've been as my best at work. Like I think it's too hard to separate being good at work and having the other things not aligned. Like I think if you can align, if you've got a good family life or relationships outside of work and you healthy, both mentally healthy and physically healthy, you can do that, you'll do well at work. And I think that's probably bigger than any tool, any piece of technology, anything else that I've come across. If I'm good, I'll be better at work. I'll be a better leader. I'll bring a better version of myself to the table. If I get the other things wrong, then it doesn't matter what tools, what the technologies I'm using, what relationships I've built. Like, I'm just not as good.
Well, it's like the safety demonstration that we all watch or don't watch on the airplane with the oxygen. You know, if you can't help yourself first, you'll never be able to help anyone else. So.
Yeah, and I think it's overlooked though. I think it's overlooked by so many people. I know I've definitely overlooked it in the past, and I'm being like, all in work, hustle culture, and you've got to work hard, you've got to do the hours, and sleep can come. I'll catch up on that at another time, or it doesn't matter if my relationships aren't good. I'll be fine at work. But
maturity, mate. No?
chipping away.
So I guess with that, what's and it may be exactly aligned to what you just said, but what's I guess the biggest lesson, and it could have come off mistakes that you've made in business or you've received in business?
I think mistakes are okay. Like I think mistakes are part of growth. I think I looked too negatively on mistakes early days.
Agree with that. So what's the biggest one you can recall that you've had the most learning from?
Or
if there's multiple,
there's a lot. Like I think it's the getting away from the core of what we do and looking at too many other things, as in getting out of the day-to-day recruitment business is what we really do well, focusing on good, really, really strong client relationships, doing recruitment, doing that better than anyone else is a really solid business, and that's what we do. Getting away from that is probably where I've made some, just chasing shiny objects.
Good point. Very good point. So therefore, and I guess along with that, I'll also ask you, what's the best advice, I'd say in business, but it could be outside of business, that you've ever received?
I got told one time when I was a young fella, and I thought I knew quite a bit, you've got 2 ears, 1 mouth, use them in proportion. And I thought it was a bit of wank at the time, to be honest. I was like, oh, what? I know a lot. You should hear what I've got to say. I'm sitting in a room with more senior people than me. I think I was a junior marketing executive at the time, and I thought I had all the best ideas, and there happened to be some people in the room that had been around a lot longer than me and seen a lot more things than I had. And I thought I had all the ideas, and I probably didn't take in that advice. I heard it, and I was like, I've got something to say here, but then the older I've got, the more I've been around, there's a lot of power in actually understanding and listening first. And it happens both in the industry I work in, but just in general, I think in relationship building in general.
Yeah, it's a great point. We use that one quite often around here too. So yeah, we do. Mate, a lot of good stuff in there, a little pearls. I might just try and recap it a little bit. You talked about playing the long game.
Yeah.
I like that one. A lot of decisions these days are short term and quick wins, and we get why, but always having that vision, I guess, on what's going to create longer term success or sustainable success. Relationships are key. Comes up all of these what we do, and I'll leave that one at that. I like the one you said where a bit of pressure isn't bad. It can force you into having to make it work. So. Yeah. That's that people getting out of your comfort zone and taking the plunge. Yeah, it could be having some safety there, a bit calculated, but nothing like a bit of pressure, especially where it's personal impact. The work-life balance, making sure understand what that means to the particular person. It's not a one-size-fits-all.
Yeah.
And depending on their status or stage of life, could mean that they want the opportunity to work a lot more. So don't sort of just pigeonhole people. I love what you said about making sure you're fulfilled. I agree. If you're not getting what you want out of your role, and that's for business owners, that's for employees. But reality is, a lot of people fall into business, but I think it's hard. You've got to make sure it's ticking the boxes and fulfilling what you need. Stay in your lane. That was gold. And the shiny stuff. I think stick to core, as you said. A lot of people, as I said, probably relates back to that short game sort of. Focused or there's an opportunity, but that ability to say no sometimes against all the feeling and all the bones in your body saying, well, no, I've got to stick to this and keep going what we know. So very, very good advice. Continue to learn. I like that you've said that, and a lot of people like to admit that, but it's like a lot of people get to the top of their game, or what they think is the top of their game, and don't do any more learning. I've made it. Well, reality is look at the game you're in with tech. It continually moves. And that's the same for life, I guess.
There's always someone coming up behind you, right? In business, like very rarely, if you're sitting out there in absolute monopoly, and even the people that do have a monopoly, someone's out there trying to build a new piece of technology or a new way of doing it to try and take some market share. Yeah.
Couple other things, coaching, surround yourself with great people, and that's whether internal or external. As you said, I've said coaching, but it could be, as you said, you've got the business partner now, etc. So great aspect of that. Be challenged, be open to being challenged. And the other one I wrote down there, which I think was really good, was don't see technology as scary. The AI, the data analytics, all this sort of stuff. Actually, how do you use it to improve your business and give yourself more people-to-people time?
Yeah, technology is an enabler. That's the way I look at technology. It's an enabler. It'll do parts that enable you to then make better decisions or you to operate better. Like technology should be 100% embraced.
Mate, awesome. Newy tech people, check them out. You need, we all need in business people related to technology these days. So I'm sure James is more than happy to have a conversation. But mate, thanks for joining me on Down to Business.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Until next time, guys. Cheers.
Cheers.